Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Deuce, you have riled up Patriots Nation like I've never seen it riled up before. 1.0 mock draft and picking Ashton Jeanty, fourth overall.
Come at me, bro. No, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I look forward to the conversation, Evan.
How could it be Jeanty? Yeah, how is Ashton Jeanty going to make dudes miss in the backfield?
Run and run right,
Yeah.
behind Morgan Moses and Onwenu.
Okay, and so the backside's just going to have no factor on the play?
You build that wall behind. You know how to do it. Mean tweets?
I wouldn't call them mean. Maybe some of them are, but I call them more angry. Delete this and fire whoever Mike is. Mike is an idiot. Just straight to the point, you know. I will commit seppuku at the lighthouse if that happens. Never associate with Mike again. Mike who? This is worse than drafting Sony Michel in the first round. Best mock I've ever seen. Well done. Jeanty is the only choice at the first pick.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
Filtered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and we're talking still free agency. I want to talk about this Mark Daniels report a little bit that came out. Did you hear about this?
No.
Just want to discuss it. I think it was Mark. It's one of Evan's guys.
What is it?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the most recent signings. The linebacker.
Bradbury.
Kind of burying the lead
and
here.
Bradbury, the center. What's that?
Kind of burying the lead here a little bit.
What's that?
There's somebody visiting here today that's a pretty big name.
Well,
According to reports.
reportedly,
Allegedly.
Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll talk about that as well. So, as we said, we're far from a completed roster, and we won't even be there, and we'll be in August and still talking about some transactions. But things are still moving. So I guess we can start with reaction to the report about Stefon Diggs.
Deuce.
I mean, he's a great player. A lot of action on Twitter for me last night. I felt like it might be Deuce against the world. But I'm going to say, look, I'm not going to say too much because they haven't signed him. He's visiting. But I'm just curious what their interest in him is. He's coming off an ACL injury. Does he want to sign up here for a couple years? Is Stefon Diggs, want to come to New England? It seems a little bit of a stretch to me, just that, he was looking for a title, going from, good team to good team right now. Patriots are in a different place. I don't think a one-year deal with Stefon Diggs makes sense. Probably going to start on the PUP list. So
he's 4.5 months away from his injury.
From
his surgery.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little while, but look, I won't overreact. I know I have established feelings on him, but he's an outstanding player. He's a number one. He runs routes like nobody's business. Was on track to a great year last year. So we'll see if they sign him. And I have my other thoughts. But
so the first thing,
for now.
Most of the tweets that I saw were, I thought they were interested in culture. Is he, but you talked to his teammates, and his teammates really liked him.
Yeah, Buffalo obviously had a tough falling out there with Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But we talked about it a little bit, I want to say last week, when it wasn't Chris Godwin, it wasn't DK Metcalf, and it's one of these aging star receivers, whether it was Stefon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, one of these types of guys, I felt like they just had to take a chance on one of these players and hope that they find a fountain of youth and they can still play and play at a high level. Just the ceiling of adding Stefon Diggs, and if he's the guy he was last year in Houston when he comes back from the injury, for a team like the Patriots, that's a worthwhile flyer to take. That's a worthwhile risk to take, that he's going to bounce back from the injury. So given their cap situation, given the need at the position, I just don't know how you could be against it. There are risks involved, absolutely. I'm not so worried about the locker room, but in terms of the injury and the age, that's a risk. But they're kind of in the position where they need to take a risk like that at this position.
I agree. They have money, and that's the thing that probably intrigues Stefon Diggs, maybe perhaps more than anything else.
Yeah. How much of it do you want to give to him?
Yeah, and that's a question. And I mean, I'd love to, if he did sign here, hear his pitch to why he was interested. And certainly, I think we could all be buttered up by, I'm really interested to play with Drake. I think he's got some great talent. I want to help him, get to the next level like I did with Josh. I think those things are all
as
very
long
appealing.
as it doesn't prohibit them from doing something else.
Yeah.
Anywhere, whether it's tackle or another then whatever. Take a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point they got more and I think the NFL's kind of like this right now. feels like they have more money than they can spend. Like they have more cap space than they realistically can allot to the players that are available and the players that are on their team that might need extensions at this point. So it's
Well, that's where I'm coming at from. It's like, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that he can't play anymore, right? He doesn't bounce back from the knee. He can't play anymore. And then you cut ties and you move on after 2025. And for a team that has a lot of cap space, the projection numbers right now are all kind of weary because we don't have all the details of contracts and things like that, but they have plenty of cap space. So that's your worst case scenario, is that you took a chance and it didn't work out, and so then you move on. I mean, that's a chance you have to take, and you're in this position. I think the only thing that I hesitate with it on is, like, does that now make them say, well, we don't need to draft a receiver because we have Stefon Diggs and, you know, Matt Collins, and, like, we have our receiver additions. Like, I would still hope that they were going to take another swing at receiver in the draft, at least early.
I don't think this says they won't.
Right. That would be the only reason why I would be against it.
And especially with the injury. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be ready in September.
Yeah, they, you know, right now, I mean, Kendrick Bourne tore his ACL right around the same time 2 years ago as Diggs did this past year, and Bourne played 12 games for the Patriots last year, so you're talking about missing the first month of the season,
right?
Most likely.
So I again, if this, as long as this doesn't prohibit them from doing anything else, then why not? Now, Tommy Curran, I don't know if he was specifically talking about Diggs, but a few days ago on his podcast, he was talking about the Patriots are worried about bringing a receiver onto the team that's going to demand the ball and what effect that's going to have on Drake May. I don't know where he's getting that from. I don't know if it's something that he just heard or someone actually from the team told him that. I find that a little bit
well, they were supposedly
hard
in
to
on
believe.
they were supposedly in on DK Metcalf too, which you know,
I don't know the credibility of, like, who told him that, or if it's just something someone's thinking, if it's a true concern. But if it's true, I don't like it. But I have a hard time believing that Elliott Wolf or Mike Vrabel or Josh McDaniel, that's a fear. You know, because, like, okay, again, if you've got the guy, he can handle that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also, you have the volume to give to a receiver. Like, you have the targets to give to the guy. So I don't imagine once he gets healthy that Stefon Diggs is going to be starving for targets in this offense. Like, he's going to be the guy. He's going to get force-fed the ball, if anything. But we were talking on Catch 22 about Luther Burden, who is falling out of the first round in a lot of mock drafts, and most people assume that it has to do with what went on at Mizzou last year for him, where he had some of these sideline antics, you know, Odell Beckham type blow-ups and stuff like that, and that has maybe turned some people off. But my take on it was just, if I was Mike Vrabel, like, you're a culture guy. Like, don't you just trust in yourself and trust in the program that you're going to be able to bring a guy like that along and keep a guy like that on the rails? Like, I would almost rather him take that approach and that say, no, I'll take care of it. You know, like,
and maybe he's been humbled in the last
Yeah.
year. You know, you have an injury like that. Clearly, there's not like a crazy market to sign him. Like, not to say he's damaged goods right now, but I don't know. Like, life has a way of humbling you sometimes, and if you come into a new culture with a new mindset, it's kind of hard to rule out and say he's just going to come in and be a diva.
That's a great point. I mean, he's out there. No one signed him yet, so maybe he has, you know, come down a little bit. And I think, like you said, with Vrabel, you set that expectation on day one. Hey, we want you here, but, you know, our main objective is to win football games, not get Stefon Diggs his numbers. As long as you're up, you know, we believe that getting you balls is going to help us win, but there might be some games where it's run first. And,
it's hard to believe,
you know,
Vrabel,
you set that expectation up front.
It's hard to believe Vrabel would let a player like walk all over him like that. You know, like, it's just not hard to believe. It's inconceivable.
Yeah. I like the infrastructure they've added, and I think, you know, all four of those guys that we met last week in the press conferences just came off as outstanding members of the team. And I am very interested in what Alex said. I'm a little skeptical that he tore his ACL and now he's humbled, but maybe the interest on the market has humbled
Right.
him a little bit,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
think-
why he's
I
looking at the
think that
Patriots
more
saying,
so than
That's
the
what I'm
injury.
referring
like
to.
they're-
Exactly.
But I think if he was healthy, there's no question.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a number one. He's the best available wide receiver.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention, there's a whole narrative out about him now, like the way it ended in Buffalo. So it's like, is that a reputation he wants and he thinks is fair? Maybe he wants to do everything he can to overcome that reputation, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, he wants the narrative to be, look what I did when I came to Buffalo for Josh
Yeah.
Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is the narrative for
It
a lot
is.
of people, and maybe he looks at Drake May and says, "I'll do the same thing."
Right.
Yeah, I'm a little older, but I'll come in and we'll get Drake May to where we got Josh Allen.
Right.
Josh Allen, 2019 was his second year, had a really good year. They went 10-6. They get Stefon Diggs there in the AFC Championship game the next year, right? Like that, and he was the best receiver in football. In his first year in Buffalo. I'm not saying he's going to put up 1,500 yards with the Patriots, but you look at what he did for Allen, and there's no doubt that it was a big part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on the table. And then I mentioned, now I could be wrong. I thought it was Mark Daniels who had a report about at least a handful of tackles that the Patriots took swings at and came
Yeah,
up short with
that one was Mark.
so
Yeah.
far in the offseason. And
Yeah.
of course, the outrage followed. What are they doing? Why can't they? Why are they cheaping out on these people? And I don't know the details of each one and exactly why it flew under the radar. Because at the time, obviously, when they were showing interest and negotiating with these people and their agents, we didn't hear about it. So this is all after the fact stuff. But what do you think?
I don't know much more you can ask for them. Like, they are in on everybody that
Yeah.
they should be in on. Going back to last year with the receivers that they were in on, they're not going to get everybody. They're a bad team the last 2 years. They need to get the momentum going again. Not everyone's going to want to come here, even if they're going to get a big pay bump. But the fact that they're, showing interest, and I mean, I know all these reports, you can probably say some of them maybe are true. I don't know exactly what this true scenario is. Are they in on? But it sure sounds like any receiver, any tackle, anybody who hits the market, they're at least reaching out. It's not like they're sitting on their hands.
And define interest, because interest could simply be talking to the agent.
Yeah,
saying,
what do you
okay,
think? Yeah, what are you looking for? Right.
Here's kind of where we go. What are you asking for? This type of thing. There's varying degrees of interest.
Yeah, I mean,
there's the interest that you show in, some of the guys that, we brought in last week, and then there's casual interest, just, hey, we're doing our due diligence. So I don't know the level of interest that they had. But if it did come down to money, if the reason why they missed on any one of these guys was purely money, how do you feel about that?
Well, it depends on the player. Like, I wrote something today about the offensive line, and Dan Moore Jr., in my mind, got the worst contract in free agency. The Titans are paying him $20 million a year to play left tackle. He gave up the most sacks in the league last year in Pittsburgh. So that, to me, was a horrible contract by Tennessee. But that doesn't mean, that the Patriots were in. I don't know. That was the reporting, I think, from Mark and other people, that they showed some interest in Dan Moore Jr., but I have no problem whatsoever with them tapping out on that one and saying, we're not going to pay this guy $20 million a year. Jalen Moore is the other big one that went from San Francisco to the Chiefs, and he's been a spot starter for San Francisco when Trent Williams is in and out of the lineup. He has been starting at left tackle. So over 4 years in San Francisco, he has 12 starts under his belt. So he is definitely not a short thing. Has some
projection.
Has some really good tape, but it's not, there's not a lot of volume there with him. So those are the two top left tackles that have moved so far. And both those guys have real question marks at the position. So I don't know if the Patriots were in a position to pay a guy starter money that's only started 12 games in his career over 4 years. Like the Chiefs can take that chance. They have a little bit of that built up equity, but I don't know if the Patriots do. I think the one that you second guess a little bit is Cam Robinson, and there's conflicting reports about whether or not they were in on Cam Robinson. Some people say yes, some people say no, but he signed a 1 year, $12.5 million deal with the Texans. There wasn't a great market for him. Some people thought he was going to cash in. He did not. The Patriots, as a stopgap, as a bridge to a rookie, made a lot of sense for them, but he picked to go to Houston.
You've got to wonder, with Doug Marrone being here, that I just think he's a great example of a lot of what we deal with in free agency. When a guy has a name, no matter how good he was or wasn't last season, you know his name. Maybe he was a former first-round pick. People are, it's just make it happen. Make it happen. He must be good because he has. I know his name.
Right.
But you don't know. I mean, and
Well,
that's
speaking
reflected
of-
in the contract.
Speaking of someone whose name we know, I would sign Tyron Smith, not necessarily to be a starter, to be the left tackle on day one, but to be a guy on your depth chart who can play left or right side as tackle, has a lot of veteran experience. Guys are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, Morgan Moses might miss a few games. Whoever you bring in at left tackle might miss. And having Tyron Smith, and I think the money wouldn't be crazy. Having it on your team gives me a level of security to have that type of experience on my bench. I think it's worth doing. He's out there.
Yeah, I've been.
And if he has to start day one, he can start day one.
I think he can still start. I mean, he was a starter caliber player for the Jets last year at left tackle. He's still a good player. I mean, I would say he's probably at this point like a serviceable starter, not like a Hall of Fame starter like he was a couple years ago in Dallas. But as a bridge to a highly drafted rookie, and there's nobody better to learn how to play left tackle from than Tyron Smith. So if you draft Will Campbell or you draft somebody maybe even a little bit later, like Connerly or Ursery or something like that, and you hand him to Tyron Smith and say, Yoda, teach him. Right?
Well, the thing is, he's not good. Will Campbell, or very few people are going to be able to do what Tyron Smith did. I mean, I think he's a Hall of Famer, and his measurables are perfect.
Yeah,
like they're the prototypical left tackle measurables.
Yeah, but I just think there's something to be said for even just watching a guy like that practice.
I know, but
and watching him go about his business.
Sure.
Right, exactly.
They could surgically remove an inch from each of his arms and give it to Will Campbell, and he still
And
would
he'd still have
fines
above the threshold
for
arms.
Yeah.
Now, he's not going to practice every day. I mean, you're going to have to manage a guy like Tyron Smith. But I think it's worth it. I do.
What are the other options?
Right, just to have him on the team. Again, if you haven't solved left tackle on day one, he starts on day one. If it's Will Campbell, I want Will Campbell starting on day one. But like I said, injuries are going to happen.
Yeah.
And you have this guy on your bench ready to go, when you need him.
Yeah, the contract the Jets signed him to last year is really appealing to me. It was a 1-year incentive-laden deal. If he plays, he makes franchise tackle money. If he doesn't play, he doesn't get paid. And in that contract, it was, that's exactly what I would look for with the Patriots to do is 1 year. You can probably max out at $18-20 million a year if you have a really, really good, Pro Bowl level season. But if not, then they can put him on the bench if the rookie beats him out or whatever the case may be. But you're going to have to throw a lot of money at him, I think.
You think so?
Well, at 34, I would imagine that his incentive of playing right now is money and rings, right? I can't really think of any other reason for him to be playing. So if you're going to get him to come to a place like this, it's going to have to be money.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just remember I didn't think that the deal that the Jets signed with him broke the bank last year.
It was very incentive based, so it always gets reported about the max value of these contracts. So I think that for Tyron Smith to come here, you're probably talking about $16 to $18 million.
Let me get on the phone with him, and that leads me to the next point. When it comes to the Patriots showing interest in these guys, and for whatever reason not getting it done. My question is, who's the closer here? Who's the guy who makes the closing pitch? Is it Vrabel? Is it Elliott Wolf? I don't know.
I like Vrabel in that role. Vrabel. Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's the kind of guy that can cut through the BS and be like, look, this is what this team's going to be. This is how I want you to play. Yeah. I'm going to be a straight shooter with you. I think that's the
commands
closing
respect.
Message. Yeah. And I think as we've seen from all these guys, they have such respect for him having done it in the league. And that to me seems like the perfect, let Elliott work out the deals, the parameters. I think
if I was part of the media, maybe, in the next press conference, that'd be a question I would ask Vrabel. Who's your closer? Is it you? Who's that guy that closes the deal?
Yeah. The linemen that have been floated out for them, though, none of those guys were guys that I would have break the bank for. If Ronnie Stanley had hit free agency, I'm backing up the Brinks truck. Whatever it takes to get that player here. What they tried to do, it sounds like, with Chris Godwin, right? You're offering him $5-10 million over market value to try to get him here. But the fact that they didn't do that for Dan Moore Jr. or Patrick McCarry or any of those other guys, I'm not going to get all up in arms about that. I think Morgan Moses was a really solid signing. I like Garrett Bradbury more than a lot of other people, but I think that's a really solid move for them at center. So, like, I'm okay with those moves. Like, they obviously still have a left tackle hole, but
I mean, Minnesota has a young guy now who's on a rookie contract what's his second year?
well, they signed Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
For the time being. Yeah.
But he's on a shorter, a smaller contract, and they think he's a little bit better than Bradbury, so they felt that Bradbury's expendable. That doesn't mean Bradbury's not a good player anymore.
No, it's also just every year in free agency, you want to plug all your holes. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, he has to be the starter and that's it and we're set for the future. It's get solid NFL players in each position.
He's a starting caliber center.
And then try to, if you get a chance to upgrade in the draft and you don't have to reach for needs, I still just look at left tackle and, if they're able to find a number one type wide receiver, those are the two glaring holes to me on the roster. Otherwise, I think that they have a pretty solid baseline to go into the draft and start to stack real talent, which is what will take this team to the next
Ryan
level.
writes in, with the Patriots having more money than they can realistically spend, I'd love to see them overpay for Diggs for 2 years, Tyron Smith for 1 year. What's the downside? Even if they draft a tackle at 4, let him sit behind Smith for a little while. That's what the Jets did last year, as much as I hate doing anything the Jets thought was smart.
Just stealing both their tackles from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like adding the second year to Diggs' contract because if he does bounce back and he has a big year, then you have him under team control for 26, which I think would be appealing. But at this point, you offer those types of contracts and you have the cap space to absorb it. Just 1 year, 2 year deals, like, don't overextend in terms of term. But I think you can get those guys at this point free agency.
What other topics do we need to put on the table?
Well, they signed the linebacker yesterday, Jack Gibbons, who was with Vrabel down in Tennessee. Kind of similar play style to Spillane, I would say. They're just both two off-the-ball linebackers who play fast and, really rally to the ball. I saw the report today that Juwan Bentley has dropped some weight from Mike Giardi, that he's down in the 230s. I think all these things are signaling what we kind of know, that this is going to be an up-the-field, attacking, fly to the ball kind of defense, not a two-gapping, build the wall, hold guys up. It's going to be a lot different, I think, than what we've seen.
Who's on the schedule this year that's more of a power team that, if you are a smaller, faster team, might be a little bit of a matchup challenge?
It's a good question. I haven't looked that far.
I mean, you're playing the AFC North, so those are obviously a lot of tough teams. Maybe Miami. I mean, you can maybe convince me. Miami, that's the kind of team you want to,
Aren't they
try
a
to
speed
match some
team?
speed. Well, just be able to
no,
match.
no, I'm talking about like a team that we would, if we
That
are
are-
a speed
that are gonna
team,
run the
that
Patriots
would,
over.
yeah.
Well, the Ravens.
Yeah.
Right.
The AFC North teams tend to, play that style of football. But I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I think all defenses, it's just if they play together and everybody buys in, then it can be good. It doesn't matter what you want to play 3-4, you want to 4-3, all that stuff. Like, just play hard and get everybody together. But I'm really curious with that signing with him. Where does Bentley fit in, and where does Jelani Tavai fit in this defense? I think they're setting it up for competition, and it seems like the message has been sent to Bentley, like, we're going to ask a little different of you this year, and it seems like he's trying to do his best to fit into their plans.
Yep.
Yeah, so the Raiders reportedly signed Christian Ellis to a offer sheet, and then the Patriots reacted to that by signing Jack Gibbons, which tells me that they're probably not going to match Christian Ellis' offer sheet.
Yep.
Good for Christian Ellis.
They're very similar players, kind of depth inside linebacker, core special teamer types, athletic guys, tackle guys, that kind of thing. I think that they're probably redundant to each other, so that might be what that move was all about. But I would like to see them play Bentley and Spillane together. I think, there's still a big role for that sledgehammer like Bentley in the middle. I think they missed him last year on their run
Thunder
defense.
and lightning.
Yeah.
Well, let Spillane fly around.
Right, exactly. Keep him clean. Let him fly around and, chase the football. Let Bentley do his thing in the trenches, and you have a nice little 1-2 punch there. But, Tavai, it's an interesting one. Like, if those two guys are going to be your starting inside linebackers, where does that leave Tavai?
I just wonder, it's probably more Jennings, a strong side, outside linebacker, standing up when you're in base. Maybe that's where he is. Maybe he's a little more athletic than Jennings is on the edge. That's kind of where I'm shoehorning him in. But it's hard to see. The way Spillane runs, it's going to be hard to take him off the field.
Yeah, yep.
John in Derby, England says, just quick question. Who, in your opinion, is the best O lineman in Patriots history? Surely it's John Hanna. I would agree.
Surely you must be serious.
Hall of Fame in Canton, Patriots Hall of Fame, coincidentally taken at number 4 in his draft class. Surely Will Campbell is a no-brainer, as he can slot into Hanna's position if he struggles to tackle. And let's be honest, if he is half the player Hanna was, then this will be a home run all day long. We can trade back into the later first round for a decent receiver, but for me, it has to be Campbell at 4.
You know, I think we spent so much time.
I saw a mock draft today
Yeah.
that had us
Yeah.
trading down to, I think, 8 and still being able to take Campbell.
Yeah, that doesn't seem crazy, but I think we spent so much time in the last couple of weeks talking about Campbell's length. Like, maybe on the positive side, it's like this guy runs like the wind. And I forget what the number was exactly, but with like the tracking, something crazy. Like, he's hitting like 18 miles an hour out there getting down the field. So I just don't want to spend too much time on Will Campbell just relentlessly talking about his arm length when, like, the guy is a super athlete, like crazy good athlete. I don't know if it'll all translate to tackle, but I've never closed the door on Will Campbell. I think he's a great player. I mean, when I see him talk, it just reminds me of a Vrabel kind of guy. And that, to me, is a good indication that, hey, maybe it doesn't work out at left tackle, but we all know they need to build the lineup. And having a guy in the middle who's really good, that's going to be a benefit for Drake May, too.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to the arm length thing was obviously to rule it out, just because I don't think that there's a great path for him being a high-level tackle with his measurables. But at the same time, now that we get closer to it, it's like such a Vrabel guy. Like, his intangibles are just off the charts. You know, he's one of those guys that is going to be a captain in his second year and just like lead the room for a decade. Like, whether he's a guard, whether he's a tackle, he's going to do those types of things. I love the story about him wearing number 7 as a patch on his jersey because he wasn't eligible to wear number 7 in the games, and number 7 is LSU's best player on the roster, period, on either side of the ball. They give the number 7 out to that player. So he wore the number 7 as a little patch on his jersey last year at LSU. So that just tells you like what they thought of him, like as a player and as a human being. So I just, when you hear all that stuff and then you put it together with the need on the offensive line that the Patriots have, it's like, I mean, how can you really talk yourself out of it at that point?
Beggars can't be choosers element to a sense, for me at least personally. Like, I mean, you guys have given a lot of credence to the arm length here and there, but for me personally, it's like, it seems like such a, I know it's significant, but it's like, how can you just completely turn away? You know?
I'm really warming up
Talking
to the
about,
Will
like,
Campbell.
Yeah.
I'm warming up to him at 4. I just think he's going to be a good football player.
Yeah, and unless Carter or
in this
Hunter
league.
are
Yeah.
still there, which just feels more unrealistic every day, it's like, what are we doing
I
here?
haven't lost hope on
Well,
Hunter
when
yet.
you get to that next group too, like they're all imperfect prospects.
Yeah.
So like now we're just talking about who's the best for the Patriots, and like Ted McMillan's a slow receiver. Like, do you want to draft a guy that ran a 4.45 at his pro day at 4 overall? You know, Mason Graham is a smaller interior defensive tackle. Like that is not as much of a, I would say, outlier as Will Campbell's arm length, but it's still not ideal. So all these guys, Genti's a running back. Like, so like you're talking about, there's no really consensus answer. Like last year we could all get our heads around Drake May. Like that was a consensus slam dunk pick. This year, if Hunter and Carter aren't there, there isn't one.
Right.
So you can talk yourself into anything, really.
Yeah. Some people are saying if Travis Hunter is there, and you should trade down. That was the mock I saw today. The team that moved up into the Patriots slot took Hunter. No, was it Hunter or Carter? One of the two.
Yeah.
Took them, and we moved down and ended up still being able to take Will Campbell.
That'd be disappointing to me.
I don't think you can do that.
I think if Carter or Hunter are there, those guys are special.
You would really. Your gut would have to be right, man.
The one thing I didn't see, and I didn't click on the Bitly link or whatever, but I don't know what the Patriots got in return.
Right. No, I think I saw the one you were saying, and it wasn't another first-round pick.
No, it wasn't.
Showed
They
you
were
the
out
rest
of the first round. Yeah.
But they traded down to like 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
they must have gotten quite a bit in return. So, like, if you can get another 2 and a 3 this year,
I mean,
and now you have stuff to package to move up back into the first round at the bottom, or extra picks in the second round to pick tackles and wide receivers. I mean,
would you pass on Carter or Hunter for a next year one?
No.
No.
I'm not passing on either of those guys. and I don't think they will either. Like, I don't know as much about Abdul Carter, but I cannot get the conversation that we had with Elliott Wolf at the combine out of my head when we started talking about Travis Hunter. Like,
So
you're telling me that guy's gonna pass on that player?
So
like,
here-
no chance.
Here's a little bit, and again, I haven't really delved into tape, but whenever somebody puts a melt together of Hunter highlights at receiver, they're always the same 4 or 5 clips.
I mean, he had 16 touchdowns and like
Yeah, but a lot of them were like
I know
red
what
zone.
100
yeah.
yards.
Yeah.
He had a lot of red zone touchdowns. Some of that I think is more about the offense than anything. Like, they couldn't protect the quarterback, so getting him down the field was
He didn't
not
have
easy.
any. Well, and I shouldn't hold this against him, but he didn't have one touchdown over 60 yards, which
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
mean, I think he had
a
one
lot
that
of
was
that
like,
is circumstances.
I think he had one that was like 51.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
his he is a natural receiver, but he's not a refined receiver. Like, he's got natural instincts for the position, but if he's going to play a receiver full time, then he's going to have to get in the lab and work on some of the details of the position.
Now,
But-
where I do see the natural ability, and it's apparent, is at cornerback. Like, it's just his makeup speed, his instincts, his hands,
Ball skills,
his
yeah.
ability to just be in the pocket with the receiver. And even when he's not, like I said, the makeup speed, knowing when to break on the ball. I think he's right away. He's a Pro Bowl cornerback right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's interesting how the roster's lining up now, like how we would fit in and how they might work that. I mean, you love, having Carlton Davis on the outside. Now, you feel like outside's kind of taken care of. I still think slot's a big question. And I mean, that might be where he is, like you put him out there on third downs and, put him in the
And that
slot,
way he
move
can
him
play both
around, and he
sides.
can kind of,
He doesn't have to play.
Yeah,
every
I
game.
don't love him in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's not. I don't think overly sticky in that sense. Like, if you're gonna have him cover like little slot receivers and
Right.
stuff like that, I'm not sure that that's necessarily his strength. His strength is his length, his ball skills, his ball hawking ability, like all those types of things. So I don't know if the slot would necessarily be the best spot for him at corner, but I mean, you can't go wrong with him on either side of the ball. And I just think at receiver, and I thought Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, put it perfectly. Like, at receiver, he's going to touch the ball 5 to 10 times a game. At corner, maybe he touches it once, right? So, like, if you have a guy with this kind of game-breaking ability in terms of play speed and all that kind of stuff, like, wouldn't you want him to play the position where he's going to impact the game the most? And that's clearly going to be at wide receiver.
I mean, you could get Ashton Genty about 30 touches a game out if you're interested.
There you
Here we go.
No, I mean, I look at Stefon Diggs and his skill as a route runner, and if you could give that to Travis Hunter and I mean, you would really be cooking with something with that guy.
Floyd in Redford, Michigan says, please stop this intangible talk with Will Campbell. And to hear Alex bring up beggars not being choosers, please tell me the last time a desperate person made a good decision.
Ooh, that's tough.
Well, it's either make it like, what's the alternative?
Well, whether you like it or not, they care about the intangible stuff. So, like, whether
I care about 'em.
whether we care about it, whether the listeners care about it, and I
So
thought
the intangibles he's talking about is just his attitude,
leadership,
his leadership,
and
Listen, I think it matters. I think it does matter.
It matters to me 100%. And I mean, I wish Paul was here because he'd probably, make fun of me for still believing in Santa Claus. But nothing's going to shake me from building a team, finding the right guys. And that's what incited me last week is these are the kind of guys that you build a locker room around and, can change the culture. And
These guys don't grow on trees.
I mean, it seems like they did their homework with these are Vrabel's kind of guys, and that has colored how I look at a lot of these draft prospects. So do I think that, if Stefon Diggs got here and started to, get a little gripey about things, like I trust that Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel are, have the skill to handle that, and I also feel like they're rebuilding the infrastructure that they need. But to me, a good football team, and this is my personal experience, the best teams I were on were the teams where we weren't necessarily the most talented, but we were always the team that was all pulling together, and everybody got what we were trying to do. And we had more talented teams with guys who were pain in the ass, and, we're over on the side of the locker room trying to stir dissension about the coach, and those teams always had huge disappointments. So I know you're kind of chasing a moving target with this kind of thing. You're never going to have a team full of Boy Scouts. But it's the NFL especially. It's really hard to have that. But it's important to me, and it's certainly something that I look at when I'm considering all these guys.
Especially in year one of a program. Like if we were 3 years into Mike Vrabel, then it might be a little bit different. But they're trying to establish something here. Like they're trying to lay a foundation. And when we were at the Senior Bowl, I asked Ryan Cowden, like, what's a Vrabel player? And he said, I know it sounds cliche, but effort and finish. Like we are going to be about effort and finish. And everybody that we are going to invest in is going to play that way. And when you look at the free agent signings, they're all those types of guys. We talk about that with Robert Spillane especially, but it's pretty much everybody across the board plays with a really good motor and a really good, effort and finish, and they're professionals and like all that kind of stuff. And that's like a baseline have to have.
Well, I think on defense, certainly.
Yeah.
Defense, you can make up for, a lack of talent to a certain degree with your effort and how you finish. On offense, on the line you can still, but you need some talent.
Sure.
We need to get some talent onto this team. We need an infusion of talent. We need to weaponize the offense.
Yeah, that's
Where
what
have
the
I heard
draft.
that
That's what the
before?
draft's going to be for.
Yeah.
Didn't use that one this year.
Nate's in Connecticut. He's on the hotline. What's up, Nate?
Hi, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions and thoughts in regards to the linebacker position. I know we just signed Jack Gibbons and we had Robert Spillane come in. But, what does this mean for the future of Jawan Bentley and, Jelani Tavai? I know Tavai, he regressed a lot this year. And, of course, Bentley was injured pretty much the entire year. But does this mean that, well, obviously it will, but we're going to have more competition at the linebacker spot. But would you guys be surprised if you saw Jelani Tavai or Jawan Bentley's name on the cut-down list for the 53-man roster day? But, yeah, that's what I have for you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate. I think for me, Bentley would be a surprise. Tavai would not.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say just, in defensive Jelani Tavai, I think he was put in a horrible position last year that
Yeah, he was wearing a lot of hats.
he had to wear a lot of hats. He had to do a lot of things that he's not necessarily cut out for. I think you saw a couple years ago when he's able to kind of float around with Bentley controlling things in the middle, calling the defense. He made some plays.
Make some plays. Yep.
I agree with Evan's point, though. I like thinking about Bentley and Spillane as the two backers. It's a good combination. It's if Bentley gets a little bit faster, I think he'll fit. But I think Tavai, inherently, his body type, it kind of fits the old defense a little bit more. Now, maybe he's doing the same thing that Bentley's doing. Maybe he's, losing some weight, trying to pick up some speed. I do think that he's still, a pretty good player that has some use. I just don't see how he fits exactly at this point. And that's one of the things when we get out in OTAs, you kind of get a sense of, all right, where are they putting guys? Are they practicing full time and just nickel or three safety? Then you get more of a sense of what packages they're putting together, how they're going to line up and match up against teams. And I think those things will start to come to light a little bit.
I just think there's always, Bentley's, we just talked about culture and attitude and effort and finish. That's Jawan Bentley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really feel like he's got that Vrabel kind of glow to him, definitely. And I like Spillane, I like the signing, but I will always be for a Mike linebacker that can blow up a guard, right?
It's just that simple.
Just a guy that can come downhill at the line of scrimmage like that is always valuable to me. I still don't think that's really Spillane's game, and so I think you have a guy like Bentley that can still do that. Maybe his role is reduced, it's only really early downs, and run situations and things like that, but I still think there's a role on the team for that.
I think, just real quick, Fred, I think the interesting thing is, Vrabel, part of the defense here, they just had such a diverse array of linebackers on the second level where they had Roman Pfeiffer who could run. They had Teddy Johnson who was a big, thumper. But I think that was more the Belichick defense. Back then it was really mostly 3-4, and so you almost always had four linebackers or three on the field at once. So you needed that stable of different kind of types to match up. I don't know if they need that anymore.
Yeah,
they're going to have.
they were
speed,
running primarily 3-4 back then.
Yeah, you need three
3-4 and a
linebackers in
nickel,
today's
I think.
NFL because you're gonna have two on the field in nickel, and then you need one guy that can be a serviceable backup, right?
Drop down like a Marty Mapu or something.
Yeah.
That's a good guy too. To talk about Marty Mapu. How does he fit in? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a little bit more in the mold of a faster, longer linebacker. I mean, I'd say he's definitely bigger than Spillane is. I think Spillane's like 6'1". And
Yeah, he's taller.
Mopper's like 6'3". You know, so
Yeah.
where does he fit in? I think that's a good question too.
Boston Cream writes in, kudos to Alex for the clean girl aesthetic matched with business boss attire. One recommendation, slick stick hair wax with a high pony to complete the look.
Okay.
Watch out, she's gonna send her boots your way there.
A high pony.
High ponytail. All right. Taking
Is that
notes,
the
Boston
one that
Cream.
kind of like pops up? over-
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that he doesn't have any critiques of our outfits,
Yeah,
just
well.
of Alex. Yeah.
Question, is it too risky to try and trade
Have
back
some
up into
flyaways
the
or something?
20s for a
Little
tackle
breakage.
if we go BPA at 4?
Trade back up for tackles in the 20s and
Yeah, it's-
Simmons maybe.
Yeah,
Kinda-
Simmons, Connerly, Ursery.
Yeah. Last year it was reported that we tried and couldn't find a partner. Does
Yeah.
that scare Wolf this year to try to do the same?
It's not a great tackle class, especially on the left side, and just trying to make my way through some of those third round, fourth round guys now, and there's a pretty big drop off after the Connerlys and Urseries of the world. It's like once you get to past that, you're talking
Wyatt Millam.
Yeah, Anthony Belton and Charles Grant from William and Mary, who's a small school guy. I think guys like Milam and Zabel, like those guys are all going to play inside at the next level. So like I'm not really even considering them. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, I think those guys are all guards. So it thins out quickly. It drops off really quickly. So if there's a tackle run in the 20s, you better get on the train, because if you don't, then you're not getting a starter this year out of the draft and at left tackle.
Deshaun's in Virginia. Hey, Deshaun.
Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
Good.
The first thing I want to touch on is when it comes to the character and culture or whatever, you can't allow those things to get in the way of trying to get good players, because I'm pretty sure that if you believe that your culture and stuff is so strong, I'm pretty sure you can instill that mindset into guys who believe that were problematic at first, or groom them to be who you want them to be, especially with the way this team is forming. I think you can actually start accumulating some wins if they get some time on the opposite end. Now, when it comes to the draft, I don't believe that Will Campbell is the best tackle in the draft. I mean, I really prefer to do it out of either Ohio State or I prefer to do it out of Oregon. And also, when it comes to Travis Hunter, I don't believe he's a talented receiver. He's a good cornerback, but we got enough cornerbacks on the roster right now. So, I mean, I want a peer receiver at that spot. Even people get on me about Tuck McMillan, but I just think he's a great comparison to guys like Mike Evans, or Drake London or whatever. Like, he plays a lot better on the field when I watch the tape. So the combat stuff really won't matter to me. I just watch how he plays on the field. That's all I really wanted to say.
Okay. Thanks, Deshaun.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
Deshaun out on Will Campbell and Travis Hunter.
we continue to do the Josh Simmons dance. Like, Josh Simmons is hurt. He tore his patellar tendon in his knee in November, late October, early November. He's going to miss a year of football. So he's a redshirt player for his rookie season. And if you're the Patriots, like, you need somebody that can contribute this year. Like, you can't be drafting guys in the top 50 that aren't going to play as rookies on this team. So he's a great player when healthy, and it's a great fit for teams that can take that chance. Like, I've been thinking of him to Kansas City for a while now, just because of that. But I just don't see how that lines up for the Patriots. Like, if they take a guy like that at the end of the first round, that's not going to play his entire rookie season. Like,
if you pick a guy like that and he redshirts, does his contract toll? Does it?
No,
it doesn't.
No. So he that's another year of service time. That's
right.
Like off the contract.
Yep.
He's a really talented player, and there was a chance. He was tracking towards being the best tackle in the class if he had stayed healthy, but he didn't. So we can, that's what that is. Connerly's a really talented guy, but he's raw. It's gonna take him some time. He's young. He's a raw player, but really high ceiling. So I'm not out on him at all. But I just think that those are two guys that Will Campbell's in a little bit more of a proven commodity type category.
Ryan's in Idaho. Hey, Ryan. What do you know?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my phone call.
Hey.
Hey, so I'm a Boise, Idaho native here. So, Mike, I was really excited when I obviously saw your mock draft. Ashton Genty is by far the best player that has ever played here at Boise State. Runner-up as a Heisman. He had almost a season record for rushing yards, and again was just like the biggest weapon that we had on offense, right? And so I felt like on Tuesday on the podcast as I was driving home, it was kind of raising my blood pressure because specifically, Paul, which I know he's not there today, it seems to question the talent of the player himself, right? I mean, when you look at Genty compared to just the talent level of the players around him, I mean, he, in my opinion, is the third best player in this draft. And so for the Patriots who need just a desperate injection of talent, right, on their offense, a weapon like Genty, who is better in the receiving game than I think he gets credit for. I mean, as a career receiver at Boise State, he had 80 catches, 800 yards, a few touchdowns there. I mean, he's a weapon. So is there value, guys, I mean, in just taking a weapon and injecting that into our offense?
Yeah,
I mean,
I wrote a whole mock draft about it.
You don't have to sell it on
that's
dude.
the argument.
That's the argument. I mean, I would just tie it to what Evans tied with
Thanks,
Will
Ryan.
Campbell, that it's the Patriots need a lot, and you just really want to make sure you don't miss on this pick. And you start to get into valuing positions and what's more valuable, Will Campbell as a left guard or Ashton Genty as a running back. Both positions I think most people in the NFL would look at as you'll figure it out. But I think there's, and I'm not like starting the parade for Ashton Genty or anything. I mean, I think it's a worthwhile conversation because the Patriots offense has been stagnant for too long. And I think it might help you get out of that. I think he's a little bit better than, the rest of this very good running back class. But, that just gets back to the point of when you have a good class at a position, do you want the best one or are you okay just getting one of the guys? And, there's pros and cons for both sides of that. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to take Ashton Genty at 4th overall. But I do think that it's a worthy conversation.
Yeah,
I don't think it's ridiculous. People,
He's probably going to go 6th.
It's
Everyone has him going
ridiculous,
6th.
but in a fun way.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think.
I mean, are Raider fans going to flame if he goes 6th to the Raiders? Are Raider fans going to be like, oh, God?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to speak for Paul, but there's no denying, Ryan's right. There's no denying his talent. No one's saying that he's not a talented player. He's uberly talented running back, but it just doesn't, for me personally, it's a positional thing. It's just purely a positional value thing and just how I value running backs in general. And there might be a gap between him and the rest of this running back class, but there's so many great running backs in this class that you can have on day 2 and day 3 of the draft that are still going to come in and make an impact. That why would you waste the 4th overall pick?
If you could somehow end up with Will Campbell and Ashton Genty, would you be happy with that?
I mean, you can't, but sure.
Why?
Because Ashton Genty's, they're both going to go in the top 10.
Well, what if I'm talking about trading back
from 38?
Yeah. No, from 4.
Yeah.
Still be able to get Will Campbell.
Okay.
Then trading back up
from 38.
Well, I mean, depending on what did I get from my trade, I might have now the ammunition to do that.
Oh, yeah,
You're not going to have a higher pick than 38.
But you go to the Raiders at 6. The Raiders give you their 2nd round pick, so you package them the 2 sec. So you pick it then at 6. You take Campbell or Genty.
Right.
Then you package the 2 second rounders that you now have
to go up 20 spots.
Maybe not quite 20, but
but that's the thing, everyone
work with me here, Evan.
I'm trying.
No,
but
Evan, don't let the facts get in the way.
Running back, admittedly is a devalued position in the NFL. Maybe he doesn't go in the top 10.
I think he will, but if he does, even if he goes 10,
some dumb team.
We're talking about having to trade up 25 spots to get him.
I know that's a sound extreme to me.
Yeah.
Too, but, I think they'll get a running back. I do think that they need to make running back a priority this year. I think they have to get one of these guys that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of opportunities to do that. To get away from Ashton Genty of it all, how do we really feel right now about Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson? How do you really feel? Do you feel great about those two guys coming back this year?
I wouldn't be freaking out if we started the season and that.
I wouldn't be freaking out either, but I also just wonder.
Fine.
Are we seeing the peak of Ramondre, or was 2 years ago the peak of Ramondre? Yeah. Can he get rid of these fumbling issues? I think Antonio Gibson's a nice complementary piece, but there's a certain appeal to me of looking at any of these, a handful of running backs that are all very good, Devin Neal's one that keeps seemingly
I
popping
mean,
up.
It's like 10 to 12 guys. I said,
it's a great add to this room to have a young buck who's going to be pushing these two other veterans, and to have some insurance against Ramondre.
So over under 0.5, the Patriots have a new running back on the team.
I'd be disappointed if they don't draft a running back.
I would bet the over. I mean, I felt similarly. I don't know if it was last year or the year before with the tight end class that was great, and we just felt like, well, they got to grab one, right? And they didn't. That was disappointing. I think they got to tap that class. They also got to tap the front seven class. I think they got to get an edge. They've got to get some kind of developmental. Tap that class. I didn't realize what I was doing there. It's just a natural thing to me. I just got these come out to me. I'm not really trying. Pause. Excuse me. But what was it?
The running back class is it's I think at 69, 77, 106. They're going to be running backs at all those spots that are going to be able, at the very least, to be in a committee, like a really good RB2 in a committee. And I think that might help Stevenson even more. I know a lot of people think about it as him pushing Stevenson, but also just spelling Stevenson, so it's not all on Ramondre to carry the entire running game on his back. I think that would maybe help him a lot too. Like, how much were those fumbles about fatigue and about him thinking, I got to make a play right now because who else is going to? So if you have a guy that's a true Batman and Robin type situation, like maybe it even helps him even a little bit more in that sense too. So I love this running back class. I mean, we don't talk enough about Amari Hampton on this show, who's also an absolute stud from North Carolina, played with Drake May at North Carolina, and he's going to be a top 20, top 25 pick too. Some people have him going as high as like to Dallas, in the early teens. So he's an awesome player as well. So it's just a great class.
All right, my food's here. We're going to take a break. More of your calls and emails after this. You'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
It's another edition of Pats from the Past, and we're pleased to be joined by the best tight end in franchise history. Paul, is it the best tight end in NFL history?
We're going to get to that later. I'm going to get that out of him
here,
later.
Paul Perillo here. He's number 87 on your scorecard, but number 1 in everybody's hearts, Rob Gronkowski.
Wow, what an introduction, guys. I appreciate that love.
Thank you for joining us.
I played
really
for the number
it.
1 organization of all times as well, so it was a great matchup to have the number 1 tight end playing for the number 1 organization,
That's awesome.
baby. That's what's up.
Was that the best team that you played on, Rob, here with that 14 team that beat Seattle?
In my career?
Here
in New England?
Was that the best team that you played on?
I think he might think it was a
2020
Tampa
no.
team.
That's why I qualified it.
That was a very special team.
That was a hell of a game.
It was a heck of a game. It was one of the best Super Bowls
Haymakers.
of all times. No doubt about that. People are like, what was your favorite Super Bowl? I always say the first one, but it wasn't because it was just the first one, because the first one's always the sweetest.
Sure.
But it was also because it was one of the best games in Super Bowl history.
No question.
Seattle was up. We came back. They went back up. We took the lead,
Yeah.
and they go back down with, final minute on the clock, and then Malcolm Butler has that game-sealing interception, and then we're kneeling the ball, and I'm throwing haymakers out there versus Michael Bennett, while just kneeling the ball. There's a huge brawl in the end zone, so there's just so much to it, and it's just such a great, perspective to fans, too, for a game to watch of what it's all about to play, to play the game of football. Just that game brought everything to the table, and what was great, it was such a team win. Julian had a touchdown, Brandon LaFell had a touchdown, Amendola had a touchdown, I had a touchdown, and Shane Vereen went for about 11 catches, right around there for 100-something yards, I think. But he had a big impact, even though he didn't score a touchdown, too. So just an incredible game overall. It was by far, my favorite Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But was that the best team? No. You want to believe what the best team was that I truly believe was the best one? Was the year after.
15.
Yeah, 2015. We went undefeated. We went 10-0. And then we lost a couple games.
Julian got hurt that year, didn't he?
So the 15. Yeah, I mean, this is a year that really frustrates me a little bit as a fanboy because there were so many games I thought that there were some questionable things down the stretch. I'm not going to put
Miami.
you on that spot. The way you treated the Miami game at the end with all the runs with Steven Jackson, kicking off in overtime against the Jets. All they needed was one win, and that AFC Championship game against Denver is here instead of in Denver.
I do remember that. And going into that Miami game, we said we're going to run the ball every single play, I think, until we get 5 first downs in a row or a touchdown or something. And we just kept running the ball and running the ball, and we were going nowhere with it. It was 3rd and 10, run the ball, 1 more yard, punting on 4th and 9. But I do remember that game, and we lost 3 in a row. We started off unbelievably hot. I mean, 10-0. Everyone was on fire. I got hurt actually with a knee in that Denver game.
Yeah, I thought you were out for the year in that game. You went down bad.
I did, man, but that was just a bone bruise. But let me tell you, the bone bruise hurt more than actually blowing out your ACL and MCL. Yeah. I was on the field screaming. I was like, my career's done, done with again. But good thing it was just a bone bruise. But also that game, I was in the locker room right after. We won that game. They called a holding penalty on Patrick Chung in the end zone. Brock Osweiler was their quarterback, and he threw a pass to the end zone. And let me tell you, I was watching it from the locker room. It was not a holding penalty. And that call right there, I think it was 4th and 10 or something, and it gave them the first down, right on their own 1-yard line to go and score on the next play. But the game was over if that holding penalty was never called. And I'm telling you to this T, go bring up that play. Patrick Chung did not hold. And I remember that play clear as day. So we would have been 11-0, still hot, and then we lost to Philadelphia because, once you lose one game, it trickles down, you lose another. And we lost to Philly that year, who was terrible as well.
Yep.
I was out that game. Then we lost a couple others at the end.
4
Didn't
of the
have
last
home
6.
field advantage.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 of the last 6.
Yeah, and
Brutal.
so I want to get
What's your
to
favorite play in that 15?
That 15 AFC Championship game to me is one of the most ridiculous performances by you and Tom. Just because of how good that defense was, and especially that day. Von Miller was the best defensive player on the planet that day. He dominated up front, but you guys just keep hanging around. It's 4th and 10, and you guys, connect. Tom just says, go down the seam and make a play. Do you remember this catch that I'm talking about? Because for me, I know you made some circus catches that were incredible, but to me, I think it was T.J. Ward hanging on you, who you had a little history with as well. Just take me through that play. That catch was amazing.
I remember.
I feel like Chris Fry. Yeah, that was awesome, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was 4th and 10, and our season was on the line.
Yeah,
I remember that play to the exact T. And from what I recall, actually, what was called in the huddle was a screen pass to the left. And Brady switched the play right away. And he called all goes. And I was like, yeah, that's right. All goes. I'm ready to go, baby. I'm on fire right now. I'm not ending the season like this. We're going to get this first down. And I'm just going to take off. And when I'm taking off, Brady can read that. This guy's got a mind of his own. He can tell if a player is rolling down the field or not. He knows when a player is going full speed. And that's who he always goes to. He can read the decisiveness of a wide receiver or a tight end or a running back to the T. And that's how he always knew what guy to go to. And he always knew who was on fire at the moment and who wasn't. And he could tell in my eyes right when we broke that huddle. I was like, oh, you better just toss this ball up. I was like, I don't care who's in front of me. And right when that thing was hiked, boom, I just took off. And they had that safety. He was all pro, actually. I was double coverage. I had a linebacker right to my, actually a safety to my left and the other safety right to my right. And I just split them and went right through him, right down the middle, right up the seam. And Brady just launched that ball up. I was like, yeah, that's right. I'm going to go grab this thing, and we're going to continue this drive. And our season is not ending right now. And I just went up there. Brady put the ball right on the money. I just put my hands out, brought it in, got hit right both ways, on my right and my left, right at the same time, and brought it in, man. And let me tell you, I was out of breath. I was like, woo! I knew our season wasn't going to end, but I was like, oh, help me up, because I can't breathe right now. And then I kind of took off like the next 3 plays, like I kind of just chipped the
Well, you
DN.
came back in to score the touchdown.
Well, I was in on the plays, but I kind of took off. I just kind of lackadaisical through it, you know, just because I was so winded from that play and being up, you know, at the mile high. And also I was sick for that game. I swear I had food poisoning, man. I was basically throwing up on the sideline. It was brutal, but hey, I always come through in the clutch, and when the season's on the line, you always throw that ball up to Robbie G, baby. And then I had that 2-point conversion as well that I was double covered on, and I kind of jumped over the guys and controlled my body to go and make the catch, and Tom just threw it up there again. It was 4th and 2. And actually, no, it was a 2-point conversion. No, it was a touchdown.
It was the touchdown.
It was a touchdown.
Yeah.
It was 4th down. It was 4th and goal.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring up the 2-point
plays.
conversion because they didn't throw it.
Yeah, we're not talking about the 2-point conversion. I was open, though.
A couple other games, Rob. 14, the Jonas Gray game.
Oh.
You you had an unbelievable touchdown where it seems like you literally ran through every member of the Colts. But we're talking about the play where you threw Sergio. You threw Sergio out of the club.
Yeah.
That's what everybody remembers about that game.
Yes, they do. I mean,
that's a real tight end.
Yeah, that's a real tight end.
No
play
disrespect
right
to
there.
some of these other guys who are pass catchers, but you're a blocking guy too.
I am
in the
a
dirt,
blocking
and
guy.
you're going to block your ass off.
Yes.
And you blocked your ass off on that play.
That's for sure. I had a lot of pride in my blocking, man. I love blocking. I truly believe that, it helped me, in the passing game as well. It helped me get open in the play action. And it just, I just always felt and believed in as a tight end just when I started playing the position that you had to do both, man. That's what it's all about, doing the dirty work and then also going out there and making plays as well in the passing game. But on that play, I mean, Sergio Brown came in with me here with the New England Patriots.
Yep.
He was a free agent that year out of Notre Dame, and he was a great player. He was a safety here. He was a great special teamer. And then he went over to the Colts, and he did great things for us while he was here with the Patriots. But that game, man, he just wouldn't stop talking, man. He just wouldn't stop, trying to get under my skin. And let me tell you, he eventually got under my skin. And when you get under my skin talking garbage, it's not going to be good for you on that defensive side of the ball. And that's what happened. And finally, I just ticked. I was like a ticking time bomb the whole game. He just kept going off and off, talking garbage, and then finally, he just, boom, he hit it. He hit that switch. And then I noticed that play, like, all right, one-on-one right here. I'm just going to drive your butt all the way until I can't drive you anymore until you get planted, into the ground. And that's basically what happened, man. That's why after the game, I was sitting there with Chris Collinsworth. I was like, hey, Chris Collinsworth, he was just yapping too much. I had to throw him out of the club.
Well, a great line.
So a lot of.
And now, great moments in history.
I'd rather be Damian Harris than Jake Bailey.
No, Damian Harris had barely dressed for games.
I'd rather be him. He's a player. He's a football player.
I know, but he doesn't play.
I don't care. I'm not a punter. I'm not the, I'm not the butt of everybody's
still get
jokes.
a ring.
It makes the team better in practice.
But he asked me which one I'd rather be. I would take either one if I had, to choose between what I'm doing now with you morons or doing. I'd be the punter. But if I had to choose between being a real player and a specialist.
Plus, being the running back for even just 10 plays hurts a lot more.
Oh yeah,
Wait,
it does.
wait a minute. What do you want? What do you want?
Make a lot of
Everything
money.
with no sacrifice, no pain.
Oh yeah.
You're just playing.
All of a
You're just
sudden,
out there
all of a
playing?
sudden, Paul's Newt Rockney over here with the sacrifice.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. Podcasts@patriots.com is the email address. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, go to patriots.com/PU newsletter. It's a great newsletter. It's all funny stuff that Alex puts together over the course of every week. Polls and stuff about listeners. So you definitely, if you listen to the show, you want to sign up for that newsletter. Go to patriots.com/PU newsletter. Any tidbits for this week?
What's brewing?
Well, there's a little off-air situation we had yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to include it yet, but it was really funny.
Well, then include it. Was it off color?
No.
No, okay.
It's just
can't be any worse than tap that class.
Well, that might no spoilers, but I was like, okay, that might be the unfiltered and no out of contest quote of the week for sure.
I have to make veiled references.
You do that a little bit.
I don't know if I'm doing it on purpose or not anymore. It just kind of happens, and then I always just look for Paul, who like,
well, half the things he says is under his breath. It's like,
that's my thing. That's my thing. That's what I'm known for.
Jack in Inaba writes in about intangibles. He says they're very important. The Michigan coaches recruit what they call makeup. Football is a very hard game. Success in football requires not only physical ability, but also the commitment, discipline, determination, and yes, courage to train hard and rise to the occasion in difficult game situations, such as goal line, short yardage, and third down. I could give you multiple specific examples of Michigan players who were under-recruited nationally, but who succeeded at Michigan in part because of their intangibles. The most obvious recent example is Mike Sanristril. Sanristril?
Everett, Mass. Shout out.
Intangibles matter.
Know his parents a little bit. We shared a flight back from the combine last year.
That was. I don't know what was more peak deuce, Jake Bobo or the Sanders.
Well, we were like end of combine, which we get to the airport and we're watching and we had a couple drinks and so we're feeling good. Combine's over. Getting on the plane back, and I'm like, "Hey, it's the Sanristo family in front of him. Like, you guys just won the national championship. He's gonna get drafted." I was harassing them.
Flying if you
was flying high. They were wonderful people. They were really sweet, and I think they were. I don't know where they were from. Somewhere in like the Caribbean. They had like that accent. Oh, we're so excited. It was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, he went to Everett High. Shout out Paul, and had a really good year for the Washington in the rookie season for the Commanders. So good player.
Great.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just real quick, like talking about needs, like slot corner. I know we're talking corners and D-backs coming up for the draft countdown show, which if you haven't checked it out, that's coming out soon. First episode here from the studio, but I think slot corner is an interesting kind of just position to consider.
Marcus Jones is going to have a breakout.
Yeah, he's a good piece. Like I just wonder, is he like we talk about the high volume slot on the offensive side of the ball? Do we need a high volume? Like, is there going to be a 3 safety nickel or is it going to be a 3 corner nickel that they run? What's the package that Terrell Williams wants to run?
Yeah, there's some good nickel corners in this class. Jihadi Barron from Texas is the #1 guy though. Yep. I mean he's Brian Branch 2.0. Just really good player, but he's going to go in the first round probably. But it does seem like that position's picking up a little bit steam from a value standpoint for teams, just because of how many teams play 3 receivers all the time. Yeah. So like you have to have 3 good corners, and you have to have somebody that can play in the slot. But some teams it's more of like a safety slot, and some teams it's a true corner that plays inside. So it depends man or zone usually. Like if you're a man defense, you'll play like a corner body type there. If you're a zone defense, you play a safety.
I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate, I guess, one of our local teams, the Celtics. It looks like they got a new owner.
They got bought.
I don't know if we're congratulating yet. But.
No. Alex is our #1 Celtics fan on the table. So what do you think, Alex?
I'll allow that.
We've had this conversation on the show before where like it really seems like we're going to be in a place where private equity is running every single
That's where
team.
The money is.
Which is really alarming. But I'm a little relieved to see that this guy's from Georgetown, Mass. Seems to be like a real diehard fan. So a little bit of my concern has been alleviated, as if it were like just like a true hedge fund or private equity
carpetbagger
coming in, but I mean, like, talk about a return on investment over 20 years. That's insane. Not to mention,
what did he make?
$6.1 billion.
Yeah.
Well, that's what sold for.
Yeah.
What did he buy?
They bought for $330 million in 2002. So
Dear goodness.
6 times return on investment, and they don't own the arena. Like a lot of times you sell a team and like at least $1 billion is just looped in with the arena itself, right? So
get them their own arena.
Just absurd money. I
Did
hope
you,
they make us.
Did you read Pagliocca's post?
Yeah,
I did.
Sounds like they're a little bent out of shape.
Yeah, he's a little salty about it. Sounds like.
Yeah.
And sounded like his money wasn't necessarily tied up in hedge funds and stuff like that. It was real liquid cash that they were offering for the team. So I don't know, but I think that this guy does make you feel better that he's apparently a lifelong Celtics fan. I grew up on the North Shore, went to Dartmouth, so he's a Celtics guy, but he's also runs a very large private equity firm. So
why do you think that they didn't take Pagliocca's group's offer? You know, he was already involved in the ownership. You know, is it maybe he didn't really have a good relationship with Grousbeck?
Well, so it sounds like they have an agreement for Grousbeck to stay on as governor of the Celtics until 27-28, and that was something that the new guy, Bill Chisholm, wanted him to do. So I'm wondering if maybe that put it over the top for
absolutely
that he was still going to be able to be involved, because you know, when they sold the Mavericks, that everyone said Mark Cuban was going to be involved still, and then very, very quickly the new owners muscled him out,
right?
And now he's just basically a fanboy on the sideline like everybody else. But it does sound like this is more of like an actual agreement that Grousbeck is still going to be the acting governor of the team.
No, I think if that's true, then that definitely had a big part in it.
Yeah, because I think he loves operating the team. He just doesn't have the pockets for it anymore.
Definitely.
So.
And the tech bros do, you know? I mean, just look at what all those guys in Silicon Valley have done with the Warriors, you know? Like, there are scenarios where it can end well for a team.
Well, the problem with those tech bros is that they've got all this money and nothing to do. They're not really running a company like, you know, some other, you know, billionaires.
Right. And it seems to be like that's kind of this firm's specialty, is making these acquisitions and scaling them.
Yeah.
So
wonderful. Goodbye, Drew Holiday.
I hope not.
We need to make money.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Tyler's in Nevada. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Okay, so I have some things to touch up on that Ashton Genty conversation. In 2023, he was the leading running back and receiving yard that year, and I do think he is the number 3 player in this draft. If Carter and Hunter are gone, and I'm the Patriots, I'm taking Genty.
There you go.
Justice for Deuce.
Okay, Tyler.
Deuce Army
chalk
represent.
one up for Deuce.
I just think we're like losing the plot a little bit of the take. Like,
what?
Like, this is nothing to
Thanks,
do
Tyler.
with challenging if Genty is a good player or not. Like, he's a very talented
Do you think he's the
prospect.
number 3 player in the draft?
If we're taking positions out of it,
Yeah.
yes.
I thought we were taking best player available.
Well, that's a myth, so I don't think.
Oh, so you don't believe in that?
I don't.
For the Patriots.
If for anybody, I think that's like a nice little like general manager speak that they throw at people. We took the best player available.
Okay.
Like, I think the best player available for the football team. Like, you're not going to take, like, the Patriots aren't going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
If they said that Cam Ward was the best player available on the board, should they take Cam Ward?
No.
You know, like, it's the same. It's the same thing at all the
Well,
other
the best
positions.
player available has to be also better than who you have.
Or just in general, like, I just think that you have to have a role for the player on the team. Like, you have to have a vision for how this guy is going to make a difference.
I can figure out a role for, you know, the number 3 player in the draft.
Yeah. Just give them the ball 30 times a game and prosper.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
3.5 yards a carry.
I don't know. Ken's in Louisiana. Hey, Ken. Ken.
Booby.
Yes.
Hey.
Did we get by you?
No, I don't. Maybe so.
Get that?
Oh, Cardi.
What's up, Ken?
Okay, I was looking at Evan's column this morning, and I noticed that he was taking of the line. He had a draft pick for left tackle, and so I'm thinking maybe answers for left tackle are getting really short. I've been looking, you know, I listen to the draft every year, and which shows I don't have a lot to do on the weekends. But you know, I was looking to see but I've always been very frustrated that we haven't gotten this left tackle thing straightened out. And I was wondering, at what point do we know that the team is urgent? Is at an urgent point? Are they going to? At what point in this process, are they? Do you know that there are no answers, and they're going to have to start throwing, this year's draft picks, next year's draft picks, or whatever? Where in the process can you tell that there is, that they're really desperate for the left tackle?
Well, I think May.
Yeah, I don't know if desperate's the right word that I would
Thanks,
use,
Ken.
but like the options in terms of like veterans that they could sign in free agency that could actually have a chance to start on this team next year, we're basically down to Tyron Smith, and that's it, right? Like Jedrick Wills is still out there, but he's battled injuries over the last couple years, and I don't know if that's necessarily a fit. Tyron Smith's the only guy left in free agency, and regardless of if they sign Tyron Smith or not, they're still going to have to draft a left tackle with a high draft pick, and so I think you're just already there in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah. Dave in Bethlehem wants to know, what went wrong with the Patriots' wide receiver evaluations in past drafts? Have the Patriots really learned from their mistakes? What traits were wrongly exaggerated? Which should be emphasized?
I got to be honest, I've thought a lot about that and tried to find common threads from pick to pick.
Right.
And there just really isn't. Like, N'Keal Harry and Tyquan Thornton are two polar opposite players. Like, I don't see a common thread between those two guys that would say they missed because of this, right? So, like, when you look at those two guys, they missed for different reasons. So it's just across the board. They just haven't had good luck with it.
But maybe you could do a dotted line. So N'Keal Harry, they overthought it because, he can also block.
Yep.
He's a bigger guy. He's not going to get the separation, but he's all these other traits that we need our wide receiver to do. Then they realize, that was a mistake. Well, if we need speed, just draft a fast guy. And they underthought it, and they picked Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah,
I think that's good. I mean, I think the draft is hard no matter what, and there's not a lot of continuity. I mean, there are some threads of guys that were picking these players, but that's a good way to lay it out, Fred. I like that. Like, it does seem like they really wanted N'Keal Harry to be this blocking big presence, and I mean, I always connected that to felt like Bill felt that the league was going smaller on defense, and he wanted to get more physical, focus on the run game, focus on big receivers, and try to bully teams. And I don't think it worked.
Yeah, I mean, then they kind of went back with Jalen Polk is not quite N'Keal Harry, but I would say he's more in that mold than Tyquan, right? So you kind of went back again to like another type of archetype. I think the number one thing that you look at though is just play speed and separation. Like, I don't think that they put enough value in separation in general. And it's one thing to be fast in a straight line, but can you run a route and get open at the top of the route and create that separation? And I had those concerns right off the jump with Jalen Polk that he was going to have that ability. Had those concerns with N'Keal Harry, obviously. So I would just love to see them really invest in that kind of player, a true technician that creates separation, like Vlad McConkey, right? Like that
Diggs.
type of player. Yeah.
See if you can figure out what Joe's trying to say here. I think there might be something here, but I think it needs some translation.
Okay.
He says, I don't think the Patriots are in a different place as Diggs. You have quarterback teams, a.k.a. possible champions, and non-quarterback teams. They have a quarterback. The rest just happens. The wrong time to sign players is when you have no quarterback. Please stop overrating left tackles, okay? Okay tackles will win most of the time. Can anyone even name 3 of the last 10 to win a Super Bowl?
Yes, but I'm a nerd, so that's probably not the best person to ask.
So I think overall what he's saying is you have the quarterback, so you don't have to worry about.
I got to channel Paul here because Paul would go, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to believe that Drake May is the guy, but I think that there's still some unknowns of him, and that's where I feel like the question is, does Stefon Diggs feel like Drake May is that guy? And I certainly think that Drake May probably needs a guy like Stefon Diggs to get him to the next level, but I don't think it's a slam dunk yet that everyone around the league is, I know there's a lot of really positive buzz about Drake, but he's got a lot to prove this year.
He's got to limit the mistakes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I just said, my sneaky fear about all of this is that Drake can't solve the turnover problem. Like, is he going to be an error repeater? Is he going to be the May sprays? Are those things? Can he eliminate? Can Josh help him eliminate those?
So here's the thing. So now Josh is here. We saw with Mac Jones how they treated Mac Jones, and they did limit the mistakes.
Yeah. Almost like too much, to your point, though, a lot, right?
I hope they don't go too far the other side.
Clamps on
But
him.
I agree. I think Josh he knows what to tell a quarterback and how to coach a quarterback to limit those mistakes, what to look for, what to avoid. But I hope they don't go too far.
I forget
the other way, because this guy's a lot different than Mac Jones.
Yeah, I forget exactly what Josh said in the video that we did here, but I know turnovers was like the key part of it. Like to him, it's like ball security.
And that got pounded into his head from Bill. You lose the game by turning the ball over, like whether you're a running back or wide receiver fumbling or a quarterback throwing picks. Nothing got under Bill's skin more than turning the ball over.
I don't know how many times did you guys watch a rookie or somebody fumble the ball and ain't seeing him no more. That's a poly line.
I would just say we're learning a little bit more about turnover variance and like how important turnovers really are. And what a lot of the data would say is just that it's all about the timeliness of the turnover, and especially with a field position of the turnover.
Do we need data to tell us that?
But like it just
here we go.
What I'm saying to you is that I don't think that there's like as much of an emphasis nowadays on like all turnovers are not created equal, and all turnovers are not necessarily the worst thing that can happen. Sure. Like how maybe Bill would, and like the old school football people might look at it. So like if you have a high variance quarterback, who's throwing 40 touchdown passes a year, but he might have 15 picks every single season. Like we're going more towards that type of player.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm getting at. Now the great ones, the Mahomeses and those guys won't turn it over either. But I think that there's a place for Drake to be successful where he is a gunslinger and he is Josh Allen.
Would you say a good rule of thumb is your touchdown, your variance should be 3 times? So whatever your turnovers, you better have 3 times as many touchdowns.
Sure, and I think that the question always is, well, to your point about Mac Jones, if we pull him back so much that he's not turning the ball over, well, now we're not getting the high end. Right. Production, right? So like you have to do that balancing act of like you can't treat him with kid gloves.
That's what I'm saying.
And take the gunslinger out of the gunslinger, because now you're not going to get the benefits of his talent. So I just look at Drake May, and he might be more turnover prone than some other quarterbacks for a while, but if he's making up for it in other ways, and that's like where the Josh Allen comps come in. Josh Allen led the league in interceptions a couple years ago, but he threw 40 touchdowns. So
that's the other, my other big question this year is Drake a killer? Like that's the line for me. Is Drake a killer? Is it no? Maybe he does turn the ball over in some not quite so critical times, but when it is critical times, can he turn it on?
Yeah.
And
what happens in crunch time? Tony writes in, I keep hearing about the wide receiver and tackle position not being very strong in this year's draft. I keep hearing the media and fans worry about Campbell's arm length and ability to stick a tackle in the NFL and McMillan's speed. Why not go with the unquestioned top tight end in the draft? Look at the impact Brock Bowers had without a quality quarterback throwing to him. Look at the impact Gronk, Kelsey, and Kittles have with their offenses. Warren can be used in so many ways, catching, blocking, rushing, and even passing. Josh would have a field day devising plays for this guy. I've come around to trading down a couple spots with the Raiders. I think the Jets may covet Warren, and the Raiders would want to guarantee landing Sanders or Genti. You can acquire another top draft pick and draft a bona fide weapon for Drake May. P.S., as irony would have it, you played an interview with Gronkowski during your lunch break. It's a sign.
I don't hate it. I mean, I don't hate it. I put it in the same kind of bucket as Genti. Does it make total sense? Maybe not, but he's a great player. He would help the team. I really like him. I think he has a presence about him. And
he has 2 great vets to learn from.
2 great, but work behind those guys, doesn't have to necessarily be thrown in the fire. I mean, I do think that's also somewhat of a little bit of, we got these 2 guys, not just yet with that. But I would say, people say that the wide receiver class stinks, but I think that's just more about the top end. And again, every year there are guys 2nd, 3rd round that are appealing and that I think have speed, and you have to develop them. They're not perfect products, but the classes get defined by their high end. But I still think that this is a strong draft.
So if you ended up taking Tyler Warren at 6 and you got another second-round pick, would you be happy with that?
I think my hesitation with Tyler Warren, just to play devil's advocate, I guess, is he just laid out all the good things that he does. Is he a jack of all trades and a master of none? Because with Warren, when I watch him play, I don't know if he's a dynamic receiver. I think he's a good receiver, and he can definitely use his size down the field and do that sort of thing. And he's going to be a really good red zone weapon as well for the team that drafts him. But he mentions Brock Bowers. Like, Brock Bowers moves at a different speed than everybody else on the field, and I don't necessarily see that with Tyler Warren. So my fear with Tyler Warren, if I were to try to talk myself into it, is like, okay, yeah, he can do all these things, but that's his value. Like, his value is in his versatility. It's not necessarily in, okay, we're going to be able to, run the offense through this player. So, is he Brock Bowers or is he TJ Hawkinson? Because TJ Hawkinson also went in the top 10 because he could do everything well. He could block, he could catch the ball. He was a versatile guy, and he's been a solid NFL tight end, but he's never been like an all-pro caliber tight end.
But does it make you salivate thinking, okay, you got Hunter Henry and Warren on the field at the same time? We're back to that two tight end offense?
I just think you're still slow. Like, I think that would be my concern, is that you're still slow on offense. Like, who's taking the top off the defense? Like, who's threatening
we've
down the
already
field?
signed Diggs.
Okay, I mean, you're selling me more if that's the case, but like, that would be my one concern with Tyler Warren. Like,
high-ranking,
Colston Loveland from Michigan, the total opposite, right?
There we go.
So,
Patriots executive
I really like what you're saying about him, and I would just piggyback on that and say he's not going to be able to bully NFL players like he bullied college kids. Like, he was just a beast down the field where it was like, get out of my way. He's not going to be able to do that. But I think Evan makes great points about Warren. That's exactly what I would see too.
Mitch in Albany writes in, I just wanted to write in and share my opinion on the backwards hat.
Okay, good.
Thank
As
God.
a 24-year-old, if I ever put my hat on backwards, I immediately feel like an a-hole, so I completely understand where Fred's coming from. However, and I know you will all find this contradictory, as an assistant football coach, my go-to headwear for practice will always be the upside-down and backwards visor.
Upside down and backwards.
I know it's ugly and not practical at all, but you can't beat that look.
You got to have a coaching
I can
look.
feel Fred oozing with disgust as he reads this. If you're in the bottom of the ninth and you need a rally, I could see. But, like, why?
Isn't that you turn it inside out, right?
Yeah, what's the purpose of the upside-down, backwards visor?
Could we get Andy to rule on this? He's a big visor guy.
Oh, he's a big visor
He would
guy.
would have some takes on this.
I need to
think.
see it. Like, you have like a whole little shelf in the
it's
back
like-
of your
right,
head you
it's
can
like-
keep stuff in.
Doesn't sound right.
It's like
to me.
keeping his flow up out of his. Plus, it's not protecting your
Hey,
neck as well.
own it. If you like it, I love it.
I like it too. You got to have a good coaching look. Everybody knows
Yeah.
me. I keep databases on those things. If you want me to do a database on you, just send me an email.
So another one that
National
just
TV.
came in. I don't know if these people are in cahoots, but Nick from Connecticut writes in, my wife was listening last week on the backwards hat discussion, and she agreed with Alex. She said the outfit she most finds attractive on me is hoodie, gray sweatpants, and a backwards hat. We're both 30.
So cliche.
She said,
cliche, but
she said
hey.
Alex is 100% correct and that Fred is old. I did mention that Alex watches live sports with subtitles, which is an old person move, so her opinion can't fully be trusted.
I don't watch live sports with subtitles specifically. I watch TV and movies in general with subtitles, and
Same.
I'm not
You mean
great.
foreign films?
No.
No.
I watch it with subtitles too.
Like,
It just helps you follow the dialogue better.
Yeah, there's studies about this.
No,
I'll send you the literature.
Okay,
but
well, certainly it helps you, but it's a little bit of a distraction, right?
I think I understand the show better, and you pick up on a lot more.
Okay, but there's other parts to a movie or a
the
show,
mise
which
en
is the
scene, the whole-
cinematography,
the whole frame.
interaction between the
I think it's like
actors.
depends on the show. Like, I'm not if we're watching like
Peaky Blinders cannot watch without subtitles.
Yeah,
the
like-
accents are thicker than gravy. I don't know what they're saying.
Okay, fair enough.
Like a Game of Thrones type show definitely helps if you watch the
Like names and
subtitles.
stuff.
Or like Severance, like that definitely like when you watch with the subtitles, I feel like it helps.
Yeah.
If you're watching like reality TV, you obviously don't need the subtitles.
Yeah, no,
But-
you're just killing more brain cells if the subtitles
Yeah,
are on.
yeah.
But like live sports, no, I totally admit it's unpractical. Oftentimes the subtitles cover like the score bug and random things. It's laziness. I'd have to take the clicker and switch it.
All right.
And I'm not going to do that.
Lastly, I'm so happy that so many people are coming to my side of the street on Christian from LA. Ever since I wrote that email a month or two ago calling him a buffoon, more and more people write in agreeing. I feel vindicated. I can't listen to some stupid scripted take followed up by, would you take a 7th for CeeDee Lamb? If the Cowboys pay his entire contract, I'll take it off the air. He's a fraud and should be banned from calling. Always love the show. Thanks for all the entertainment.
Wow.
Wow.
Let's calm down.
Nobody should be banned from calling. I mean, that's,
No.
Appreciate everyone calling in, but caller on caller crime is funny.
Yep. Tyler in New York City wants to know about Josh McDaniels. Is the offense going to be as precise? The old Josh McDaniels offense largely relied on precision. The quarterback dissecting the defense pre-snap and throwing to the exact right spot at the exact right moment, and the receivers reading the defense and choosing the correct route on every play. This complexity is often cited as the reason why the Patriots tended to churn through receivers and why only a handful of receivers could ever stick. Do we expect that the new offense will require this kind of structure again? Drake May's strength is playing outside of structure and when the play breaks down. I'd hate to see the new regime stifle May's talents while simultaneously limiting the kind of receiver that might succeed here. I mean, yes, but that was all Brady.
Yeah, I don't know. We're talking to McDaniels for the first time in April, right? A couple weeks from now.
Thursday,
yeah. So well, I'm sure he'll get asked questions like that, and I'm sure he'll want to keep it pretty close to the vest in terms of what he's got planned. But I would imagine that they're going to be a little bit more spread oriented and keep Drake in the gun and let him, kind of do his thing. I'm not too worried about all that
I didn't go and study Josh's offense with the Raiders really, but I wonder what Bill's influence was on Josh and the offense, and what Vrabel's influence will be. I'm sure the head coach is saying to the offensive coordinator, "This is how I want to play. This is, I want to." I mean, a lot of what we hear from Vrabel, I want to play fast, and I think that's, Josh's system, like the emailer pointed out, sometimes known as cerebral. Having to, route conversions and being able to adjust on the fly, those kind of things, needing guys who are smart. I don't know if that necessarily lends itself to playing as fast, especially with some guys. Like we get back to the wide receiver conversation. Was N'Keal Harry ever able to truly not have to think while he was playing, or was he one of those guys that was so in his own head that year of there's just a volume that keeps piling up each week?
That's kind of what they said. What Elliott Wolf intimated about Polk last year, that they put too much on his plate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I buy into that. But certainly a guy like Polk would not have made it in that old offense.
Yeah,
as a rookie. There's no way.
I think some of this stuff is overblown. Like if I showed you a play sheet of like Sean McVay's offense and I showed you a play sheet of Josh McDaniels' offense, the receivers all have conversions and sight adjusts and things like that in both offenses. Like it's not like there's differences, major differences. Like they might call something and the McDaniels would call it something else, just in terminology wise. But all those coaches still.
But
have
is that
those types of
coupled
things.
Also with Brady changing things at the line?
Yeah, I don't know, but all I know is like if you see a post safety in a Sean McVay offense and you see a post safety in a Josh McDaniels offense, there's going to be a reaction to that player sitting in the middle of the field. Nobody's telling you to just run right into the defender, right? So like all these teams have different conversions or adjustments in all offense. Every offense has choice or option routes. Like those things are all existing at this level across the board. I think that it's just a difference of how you communicate it to players that might be a little bit different.
Yep. Ryan in Oceanside, California. Oceanside?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Right
by the ocean, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah,
it's
true.
It's on the side of the ocean.
Can confirm. Just beside
it's
it.
Oceanside.
Is it a high tax bracket?
I'm sure it is.
Christian
yes.
in LA.
They're all high out there.
Can someone explain to me what exactly Bradbury brings to the table that David Andrews couldn't? If we're going with a bridge guy to hold down the fort for a year or so, I don't see why Andrews had to be released just to replace him with a similar guy.
I mean, hearing Andrews speak for himself, it was still questionable if he was going to be able to even go. I mean, he thought he wanted to give it a try. I don't think they wanted to let him give it a try. I think they needed some kind of stability there. And like we said earlier, maybe a placeholder, but that's what you do at this time of year. You just go and you find free agents to put placeholders in, and then you don't have to go into the draft being like, okay, we really need a starting center. But one more thing I will say about the center, it's like, and I said it before they signed Bradbury a couple of days ago, no belief or no Ben Brown, Cole Strange, Jake. I mean, I know those guys haven't done much. They haven't started at center, but I think in a perfect world, I would have hoped that they said, we really think Cole Strange can be our center. Or, we really think Ben Brown, he struggled last year a little bit, but, we jump right in. We put a lot on his plate. We think with a year to develop that he can be the guy. I would have liked that better, maybe, to feel that way, but they went with Bradbury, so.
Yeah, maybe it's just the 88 career starts and the fact that he's a little bit more of a proven commodity that makes me feel that he's considerably better than those guys. But I think Bradbury is already getting a little bit of a bad rap, like instantly. A second that move was announced, I feel like this guy stinks, that whatever, and I just push back a little bit on that. Like I don't think that he's a high end center. Like he's not an elite center. I think he's an NFL center though. Like I think he's a starting caliber center in the league. He's a really really good run blocker. He's really athletic at the position. He's got plenty of experience playing that spot. Pass protection at center, I said it yesterday on Catch 22. I just don't feel like that's the most important thing with
when
centers.
you're running Genty behind Onwenu and Moses to the right.
To the right, right.
Bradbury comes and he creates that wall with Cole Strange and Campbell.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Prosper.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Let's see. Louis in Switzerland says, Paul pissed me off on Tuesay's show.
Me too. Man, coming down hot.
He says his opinions didn't make any sense to me. First, the Ayuk trade proposal. According to the trade value chart, it takes something like a late third, early fourth on top of the 49ers' second to trade up from 11 to 4. I agree that Ayuk might be worth a little bit more than that, but it seems like Paul is forgetting that we talked about a second for Ayuk last season, and that was before he got paid and injured. Also, he wasn't really that great before his injury either last season. I don't think it's crazy to value Ayuk as an early third-round pick considering all that. So to conclude, I agree that the trade proposal favors the Patriots, but it's not as crazy as Paul thought it was. And then Fred moves on to the NBA thing, with that head-to-head should matter for playoff home field advantage. While I think Fred's idea isn't all that great and should definitely not be implemented, Paul and Evan seem to completely miss Fred's point. If the Celtics and Cavs had another matchup left with the season series being tied right now, both teams would absolutely bring it all to win that series and get home field. Surprisingly, Deuce, who doesn't know jack about basketball, completely got what Fred was talking about.
I did.
Yeah, in that one-off scenario, that could be true. But why wouldn't you just try to have the better record throughout the course of 82 seasons?
Well, you want both. One doesn't preclude the other.
Okay.
But I like
we don't
your
have
thing.
To go, we don't have to.
But you
go
made a good
point.
But you made a good point that home field isn't as important as it used to be.
Yeah.
So maybe it's you get an extra game.
Yeah. I felt that way for a while, and this is in my total disclosure is complete cope because the Bruins a couple years ago had the best record of all time in the NHL playoffs and lost in the first round. And I just felt like, as a fan, I was like, how does that season
end like that?
It ended like that, where they had no, Game 7 was in Boston. It's a coin flip. It's a coin flip either way. So I just have, if you're going to play the regular season, then, have it mean something. Have it, really be incentivized to actually...
To me, this makes it mean even more. Each series could be something that has an effect, especially in the first half of the season when you don't know necessarily, who the playoff teams could be, especially in the lower rung. The last thing you want is to have that great record, and for whatever reason, you lost the season series with the Knicks. And so now all of a sudden, they've got the home field advantage.
Yeah, I just have always thought that it's not enough of an advantage.
Okay, that's fair.
In those sports,
I might be overvaluing home. Home court
but I'm
advantage.
with you though that it's they have to do something to make the regular season count more.
Right. Whether it's that or less games, but I don't think they'll ever do less games.
Yeah.
How many times do you play an opponent in the NBA? Because if you
depends on if they're in your conference or not.
Yeah. So let's just say they played a team 7 times. All right. These team won the matchups in October, November. We're here in December or January. The score, the season score is 2-1 or 3-1. You start to build up what's the season record of the series.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it's like formulaic, like the NFL with the NBA schedule, but it depends on if they're in your conference or not. And I think division
Could it
still
be an
matters
odd
a
number
little bit
because
too.
that would be for the Fred series? It can't be an even number. Right?
Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
I think
4.
for the West teams, is it an even number?
I think it's just 1 and 1.
1 and 1.
Yeah,
Right,
I think
right.
like OKC
Yeah.
play once in OKC,
Yeah,
play one
second
in
one.
Boston. But what was the first part of the email? I felt like I had
Ayuk.
Oh yeah,
The
so
trade proposal.
So I looked this up because I was also curious. So on the new trade charts that are adjusted for recent trades a little bit more than like the Jimmy Johnson chart, which is from
Is
the
that chart available? Because I'm sure people would want to.
Yeah, you can just Google it.
Yeah.
Their Draft Tech has it.
Chill, I think
Yeah,
is the-
PFF has like a fancy one that if you want to input the picks, it like spits out like what it should be. But that basically values Ayuk as a 4th round pick. The trade proposal that Paul brought to the show the other day would value Brandon Ayuk as a 4th round pick. So I think he's probably worth a little bit more than a 4th round pick, even injured. But that's what the trade proposal would be.
Jake wants to know if I've received my our lads guide yet. No, I think they're going into print next week.
Mid-April.
Yeah, I got a notice from them that they're going into print pretty soon. I mean, you have to wait. You have to get all the information
I know.
in
Well,
before you print.
When we talked to Dane Brugler, it was that comes out so late that you feel almost like at this point feel kind of close to knowing what I know. And
But the good thing about Brugler, and I guess our lads too, but the day it comes out, you print it out.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to wait for it in the mail.
And Fred's standing in front of the printer for like 40 minutes.
My only question is, should I use color or not? But yeah, I'm printing out every page. And then I got the big bull clip.
Who used the ink cartridge? Like our lads came again. I'm like, oh, okay.
Let's see. This is Backer from Uvalde, Texas. Longtime listener, 3rd-time emailer. Has anyone discussed the 4th overall pick, taking either the Rams or Eagles scouting department? All jokes aside. You just got that?
That was my fireman.
Say Hunter or Carter are off the board when we're picking. I think Will Campbell is the safest pick. If he overcomes the short arms argument, then we potentially have the franchise left tackle of the future. If he doesn't overcome the arm length, but he plays left guard at an exceptional level, could that improve Lowe or anyone else we plug in at left tackle, even if it's just for a year? Also, despite his words, could that entice Scar to come out of retirement? Maybe not your full-time line coach, but maybe as an offensive line, Ernie Adams.
No, I think Scar's doing woodwork now. I think
Yeah.
Woodwork and pickleball.
Yeah.
I just can you give me 2 weeks in the off season, like where he just puts the rookie lineman through a boot
Scar
camp?
camp, right.
Yeah, like just give me 2 weeks.
that's fine.
Like, no pads, no, we're just going against air, but like just work on footwork and technique and hand placement and all that good stuff.
I remember
That's all
watching
I'm
him
asking.
like hold like a weight, like a plate from like, and the linemen are like doing their punches, and like it's like a 45-pound weight, and they're just holding the thing. I mean, every time I saw out in Dante's Inferno, it just looked like absolute hell what he was putting those guys through, but it worked.
Bronson suggests if we end up signing Diggs, I still think we go and sign Amari Cooper as well as bringing in Tyron Smith. That will completely free up your needs going into the draft. If Carter or Hunter are there, you take them. If not, you try to trade back a few spots and take Campbell, Warren, and let them develop into their true roles.
What's up with Amari Cooper? I mean,
washed. Yeah, and I know everybody's like probably rolls their eyes when I bring up the numbers at wide receiver, but if you're bringing in Diggs, I mean you have 7 receivers that you're thinking might have a chance to make the roster already. Yeah. So now if you bring in Cooper on, now you have 8. Like at some point there's just not enough room for people on the roster. So like if Diggs is signed, Diggs is obviously making the team. Mac Hollins is obviously making the team. You have
Polk,
Douglas Booty, Polk, Baker, Kendrick Bourne. Like you got there's a lot of numbers there. So assigning Amari Cooper, like it's gonna have to be somebody I feel like that's a little bit moves the needle a little bit more than that to free up another roster spot.
Jordan Hudson writing in.
Okay.
Oh boy.
I don't follow
Jordan.
I didn't follow last year's draft as closely. From what I've heard, people weren't thrilled about the Caden Wallace pick. The Morgan Moses move clearly indicates we have no intention of starting him there. Must this indicate we are intent on playing Wallace at left tackle? Do we think he would be an improvement over Verdarian Lowe? He only played a few games last year, but he didn't seem to do terribly considering he exclusively played right tackle in college.
Yeah, the game against the Jets was rough, but that was his first career start, and he was playing on the left side. So I'll give him a lot of those caveats. I'm sure he'll be like everybody else in that group and have a chance, just like Layden Robinson will have a chance, and Sidney So and Cole Strange. Whether it's at guard or it's at tackle. When they drafted him, some people thought he was going to be better off at guard in the NFL, anyways. So maybe he tries out left guard a little bit as well, and they give him a chance to play that spot too. So I think he's gonna be in the competition. He's gonna be in the.
He still
fight.
interests me though. I don't necessarily see Morgan Moses signing as being we're done with him. I mean, Wallace didn't really get much of a chance last year. I think they need to take the pressure off him. He can't be the starter going into camp, but he starts out at the swing tackle. Fred, you brought up earlier in the show, guys get hurt all the time. I wouldn't give up on Caden Wallace. I think he was miscast last year as he's going to be our savior as the left tackle, after playing right tackle. But the fact was he was viewed as very positively as a developmental right tackle. And, maybe that's actually what he is. And at some point, maybe this season, they need to call on him to step in.
And a more power-oriented player, too, which I think in this system with McDaniels, if they're going to be what we know of Josh, of downhill, gap runs, and things like that, he might be a little bit of a better fit than what they were trying to do last year. I thought both their lineman picks, Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, kind of felt like they were scouting for the old offense and drafted guys that really fit that offense a little bit better than the zone offense.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting. So now that they're going back to that style, Caden Wallace is a big guy. I think he's like 320, I want to say. So he can move people.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe Morgan Moses takes him under his wing and helps him blossom into being that right tackle. I think Morgan Moses signed a 2-year deal. I mean, it's or it was 3 even. I think
it was 3, but let's see how many real years are in there.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Joe wants to know: can we talk about how Evan struggled to subtract 10 from 38? I get estimates if it's a 7 or a 14 or something, but guy, it's 10. You're college educated.
You're 100% right. I'm terrible at simple math on the fly like that.
All right.
Yeah, my brain
subtraction.
My brain doesn't work like that, which is so funny because
So you would not be the guy in the booth helping the head coach.
No, I'm not quick on my feet like that at all.
Tell you all right, Evan, we just got a 5-yard penalty. What's the down and distance now? Hold on, let me get my calculator.
Not me. No, it's funny because my grandfather was an accountant and was a human calculator. He could do crazy multiplications off the top of his head, and I can't for the life of me.
Good thing you're a writer.
You're not lying.
But he likes numbers.
Let's go back to the hotline. We'll go to Mark in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for taking my call. I'm excited to call in because I ain't got Paul Perillo to, bust my chops the whole time while I'm on the radio. So I appreciate that. But, no, what I was calling about, Evan and Mike, I was really hoping that we would have breaking news from the New England Patriots that we signed Stefon Diggs. That's what my hope was while I was listening to the podcast today. But I guess it's not happening while we're on the podcast at least.
13 minutes to go, Mark. I don't know. Stay tuned.
Anything could happen.
Yep.
So appreciate you guys. Love you all.
That's it?
Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
You just wanted to say that?
I kind of thought so too. I was hoping at some moment Stacey James was just gonna is that Stacey's music? All of a sudden Stefon Diggs comes in.
Where do you think they take him to Davios? Where do you think they went last night?
Five guys.
City.
City.
When Rodney Harrison was in town, they took him to the ground round. Remember that?
Famous story.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
Where would you? Okay, so you're Elliot Wolf or Mike Vrabel, and you big time free agent in town. Where do you take him?
Well, I'd ask.
Moo, probably.
I'd ask
Are they a steak
what do
guy?
you like?
Are they a sushi guy?
Do you want North End Italian? Do you want steak? I'd probably ask. But if I'm going steak, I'm an Abe and Louie's guy. You know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've told you that before.
Good
but,
place. Solid choice.
If
I'm
prime
rib there ever?
No.
Raw prime rib's pretty good. Let me tell you.
North End. We've been into Tresca lately.
Okay.
So that's been our spot in the North End, but.
You got to take them
North
into the
End pretty
city,
well too.
right? You got to take them into the city and give them a feel of the
But do you want it
nightlife.
private, or do you want it in a public place where people can see you?
Ooh.
Well, Tresca's got a private room upstairs, so
Most
we can
of
bring
them do.
Bring them
so
up
just
there.
make the arrangement ahead of time.
Yeah.
You don't want to know what goes on up there.
Yeah. There's a spot I can't remember the name of it in the North End that that the
But I think
some
that's
players
you
frequent.
ask him what do you like?
Aria
What do you like to
Trattoria.
eat?
Aria Trattoria.
Aria
That's
Trattoria
it.
would be a good move because it's just great classic Italian, and you walk in there and it's just like almost every athlete that's ever played in Boston, just photos of them.
Oh, there we go.
In
There we
the
go.
restaurant.
That's the spot.
I've been pitching going there for a content idea for I feel like years, but it's
Yeah.
just such a cool visual and just the history of it, and it's not just Patriots players. It's the whole. I feel like that's one of the spots you go to, even if you're an away team coming in.
That's a good move. You know, you're like
Send Vrabel an email
Boston
about
is
that
a
one.
sports city.
Yeah.
You're coming into a city
Right.
that really cares about
It's
its
really
sports.
cool. You walk up
Isn't
to
this
the
great?
dining
Look at
room.
this.
It's a first
amazing.
floor walk up, and just the entire stairwell is plastered with black and white photos
This
of
could
like
be you, Stefon.
it's Stefon Gilmore. It's Chara. It's everyone.
Yeah, I remember when the Celtics won the championship, Joe Mazzulla walked out of there with the trophy.
Yeah, they brought it to Arya.
Yeah, and he was walking down to Hanover Street in the North End with
Yep.
the trophy, and there's just a mob of people around him, like trying to take pictures and stuff.
Also, Aria Trattoria caters like post meal for the Celtics all the time. I follow the owner of the restaurant on Instagram, and he's always like, "Up, Celtics! This is what they're eating tonight after the
man.
game," and it's pretty cool.
Tony suggests the Foxy Lady.
Oh.
Okay, all right.
Maybe
Hey,
not.
Get a little compliment going.
My cousin used to work there.
On stage or off stage?
No comment, but
Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
she was there.
Okay.
It's not fun when your friends are like, "I think I saw your cousin."
At Legs and Eggs.
Wow. And now, put your hands together for Lady Deuce. Geez, I kind of
Lady Deuce
stopped me in my tracks there. Just picturing Deuce's cousin.
Oh, God.
He's sneaky with these stories.
Oh, I know.
Like,
I've lived
all
a
of
long
sudden,
life,
like,
Fred.
I
you know his
know.
grandfather was Ted Williams' best friend?
Yeah, his grandfather is
fishing buddies.
track legend.
Oh, yeah, track legend.
Tufts.
And now is
Yeah.
equally prolific.
Also, what's your
His cousin and
ancestor?
Foxy Lady.
Your ancestor you were telling me
Oh,
about
yeah,
the other
no,
day?
Foxy
Alex,
Lady is one of the
don't
more,
get me started.
prolific
Yeah.
gentlemen's club in
Establishment.
That's a Rhode Island,
New
right?
England.
That's Rhode Island, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
Rhode
right.
Island,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Deuce's grandfather is literally the Bill Belichick of track.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like he is literally like the most
That's true.
historically famous track coach of all time.
That's
Yeah.
well, I don't know about that, but yeah, but no, in Boston
He
sure
published
was.
the book Running Methods.
What's well, there's a he went down to Florida one time in like the 50s, and there's like if you go into
You all right?
newspapers.com,
Okay.
if you go into newspapers.com, you can search for your name and stuff, and I found a headline that was like Red Sox to run like Dussault, and he went down there to like teach them how to run. But a lot of Phil Bissell.
Did
was
Jim
that
Rice put him in a thing?
But Phil Bissell, he's the artist, right?
He did Pat Patriot.
So he used to draw, like, there's so many in my grandfather's scrapbooks of him being on the front page of the Globe or the Herald and, doing his caricature and stuff. So, no, he's
Okay,
he's
but
got some
more about your cousin.
It was a long time ago.
How did she get into this profession?
I have no idea.
What was her stage name?
Like, is this something like she did at Christmas for you guys and she just took it?
Jesus
no,
Christ.
It's family rumors and innuendos that you're like, wait, what? And then, like I said, you have friends
Is
that
she
are like,
estranged or is she still invited to Thanksgiving?
everything is all fine now. It's all
Okay.
settled
This is a
down.
family
and
program,
it's nice.
dude. Come on.
No,
Is it?
I think he's got a lot of stories that he's not
Honestly,
telling us.
I gotta let them drip out over the 5 years.
That's
that I've been
that's
here.
100% you. They're like a drip out situation with Deuce, where all of a sudden he'll just say something like that, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm older than I look, folks. I've lived
Yeah,
a
but
little
how
bit.
old is she? That's what I want.
A little younger. A little younger.
Okay. All right. Whoa. All right. Claire writes in, hello, everyone. Hello. You guys know I love you in the show, but Alex secured that just a little bit more today with the epic quote, "Don't let the facts get in the way, Evan." And, of course, Deuce's tap that class. Never stop. Please continue to make life awesome for us Patriots fans.
I got to work that in the draft show this year. Remember that. Tap that class. What class are we tapping? That running back class, and we're going to tap that front seven class big time.
Tap those tight ends,
But seriously, though, I really want.
That's what Claire wants to do.
I really want a
Hey, girl.
defensive end of the future in this draft. I really, really want that. I want them to find a guy that can be that third piece between the two vets that they brought in, the developmental guy, the future 3-down guy, I would love to come out of this draft with that guy.
That's your position.
It's
like
my
you
position.
like defensive ends like Richard Seymour.
I used to be a linebacker guy. I mean, I was like kind of the Vrabel guys, but the defensive switch. So changing times, you got to adjust your love. So
edge. Let's just call it edge.
Edge.
And then
Love the edge. Set the edge. Get after the
Chad in
quarterback.
LA, curious what you all deem as a successful season this year. 8-8, more, less, something else. Also, this draft has some good tight ends in it. What if wide receiver ended up not being a focus for whatever reason? Is a wishbone offense an option? Lastly, with regard to left tackle, if we don't have one, how do we protect May?
Just give me 6 wins at least. You got to get to 6. Like, please. With this schedule.
But would that be a success in your eyes?
It wouldn't be a failure. How about that?
Oh.
I think that's the floor.
That's a floor. Like I don't know what I don't know, like, because
and I don't mean that's
it gets into Paul's thing of
it's
like
our expectation is the floor.
I don't think I can find a successful season with 5 or less wins, but I think you can find a successful season with 6 or more wins. But like Paul always says, you got to see how it looks. I mean, what if they're in all these games and they lose some heartbreakers, and let's say they have an injury at a key position, and that they're under, so you got to see what it looks like. But 6. Got to get to 6.
I might be overrating Vrabel's impact a little bit, but I just feel like he's the type of coach that doesn't have like horrible losing seasons. You know what I mean? Like
that's what we thought about.
Like
Bill.
I feel like that's why like 6 or 7 wins is I can't fathom them losing more than that, just because I think they're gonna have a certain floor. With him as
Well,
the coach.
if they do what Vrabel
take advantage
of bad football.
Right.
If they do that, I think that's worth 6 wins.
Let's see. Nathan's in Idaho playing catch up on shows. Just heard the email read from last week that smeared Eldred. There are some prolific contributors to Patriots Unfiltered, including some of the regular callers. Chris with a T-I-A-N, Melvin, Claire, the Denver lady with a killer Mass accent, and of course Eldred. Whenever the horn toots or we get to hear that contagious laugh, I light right up, and I know I've arrived at one of the show's highlights. Eldred, if you find yourself trucking through Idaho, hit me up. I've got a pitcher of beer and a basket of wings for you. Keep calling. And I would guess this show, and I would guess this world in general, is richer with you in it.
Oh, wow.
That's so nice.
Wow. As for the small, shallow Wankerton that sent in the worthless email, you too have an open invite to Idaho. I'm ready to square up and learn you. Until then, keep your pissant thoughts to yourself. Wow. All
Stepping
right.
up for Eldred.
Love it. Now we're some backlash.
We need Eldred to
Punching
call
back.
in about if the Diggs thing were to happen. I mean, I think Eldred be pretty happy, right?
I'm
It's
not,
not
it's
DK,
it's
but
not his type.
No?
We went over this with him yesterday.
Oh, yeah. we called him
DK, Tet
Gotta
McMillan,
be big guys.
Quentin Johnston. He
the tall drink
big,
of water.
explosive
Big and
guys.
thick.
Yeah.
The closer they are to Brandy Moss, the better.
I mean,
ain't that the
sure.
truth?
Exactly.
That's actually a fun little scouting thing that Daniel Jeremiah actually talked about doing this, and I have tried to do it in the past. Who is your archetype at each position that's that is the quintessential wide receiver? Randy Moss would be my that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Just all the tools, in each position. But I think Randy Moss is that at wide receiver.
I think Jamar Chase is that right now for me. The guy that you can move anywhere and can do it all. He's a stud.
Yeah, I don't know what some of you do with your emails. The text comes in really. See that?
Oh God.
Yeah,
It's
every once in a while I
light
get emails
yellow.
like that. I don't know. You got to change your font color. I can't read it.
I only write in pale yellow.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up.
All right.
That's it. We'll let you guys leave early for the weekend.
Well, we got to record a
It's
thing
the-
after this,
I know.
so we'll get a jump on it.
All right. You got to record something. So we're going to get going. Thank you for listening this week to Patriots Unfiltered. We'll see what happens with the Stefon Diggs watch. Maybe they can pull that out. I would add Tyron Smith onto that wish list. Let's get it going. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.